Welcome to the Forever Better Academy podcast, where you will be given the principles, tools, and techniques to reach the next stage on your journey of self-mastery. Who could you become? I'm your host, Wade Vincent. Imagine if life was like those choose your own adventure books. Right now, I'm probably showing a little bit of my age here, but for those of you that remember, there was this amazing series of books. Like when I was a little kid, I think it started probably a little before my time, right, in the 70s. And then definitely, as a kid in the 80s and the 90s, these books were, a huge part of my early reading experience when I was little, right? And for those of you that don't know, these books were basically a really cool concept where you'd have a book would look like and have a context or a story like any other kids adventure book, but the main difference was when you read these stories, as you came to a sort of pinnacle event or something where the characters in the book had to make a decision, you could choose which path to take or what you would want to happen next, and based upon what your choice was, it would tell you what page to turn to. So it was almost like an interactive or dynamic book, right? This is print books before the internet, where you could do something like this much more easily. But yeah, as a kid, they were fascinating, right? Because you got so much value from this book, where you would you'd read the book and you'd make a choice, and you'd go through and see where it would lead you, and then the next time you read the book, you could make a different decision and have a completely different outcome, different storyline, almost like a whole new book, right? Like really cool. I don't know who came up with this concept, but yeah, at the time it was just brilliant, because as you flick through the pages, it was sort of like the book was segmented and you didn't necessarily read it from cover to cover. So, today, this is what I want to talk to you guys about, like as the title suggests, choose your own adventure, right? Now, imagine if your life was like these choose your own adventure books. And the amazing and probably obvious thing is that it really is like that, right? So for those of you, this is the first time you've seen or heard the Forever Better Academy podcast, thank you for joining us. My name is Wade Vincent, and I release new episodes every Friday for you guys. So I'd like to, thank you and welcome you along. If this is the first time, if you've been here since the beginning, thank you for being along for the journey, and I hope to give you many, many more episodes from here on in. So now that you guys, if you didn't know, you understand those books and what they're about, this is going to make a lot more sense to you, right? So the real challenge, right, of the books when you're reading these was ultimately, the underlying, moral of the stories was to make good decisions, right? It was really about teaching kids in a safe and effective way how to make choices and learn what the consequences were from their choices, without any dire consequences. No one's risking their life. It's a story. It's like all good stories, they're there to teach you something, right? So the book really served, especially for me, as a kid, as the learning experience and building, good decision-making skills, right? So, if any of you guys know these books, I'm sure you're like I was, where you'd read the book and then, curiosity would kick in, and even times when you knew, let's say there's like an example of one I can remember where there was like these kids and there was like a wolf, and you came to a cave and you had the decision to go into this unknown cave or to not go into the cave, right? And when you'd get to those when you read the story a few times, like you could safely make the decision to to make the wrong choices and see what would occur, right? So, as a kid, like if you're reading a story and you're taught the dangers of heading into a dark cave in the wilderness. In a storybook, you can see what happens, and I found myself actually going through these books and making these poor choices to see what would occur, right? And almost like trying to navigate every possible outcome of the book and every sort of way that the storyline could occur. So I would get hours and hours out of these books of just fascination, and my mum reading these to me, and with my sister all the time, big fans of them, right? So the biggest sort of challenge in the book was you knew that the book had multiple different outcomes, right? And it was this challenge of wanting to, at least from my opinion, and my experience, I wanted to make the right decision. Like I wanted to find the best outcome, right? And I'm sure many kids were like that, and everyone's different. There's probably some kids who just want to, like see what happens, throw caution to the wind and figure it out. And that's the beauty of these books, right? So I was always trying to find the best solution so I could, whatever choice I made would give me the best result, or like the expected result, what I was looking for, right? Just saw like a moth fly in front of the camera, so it's like an Easter egg if anyone's watching this, and you'll catch a moth fly over the video. And then the other side of the coin was the fear of making the wrong decisions, right? When you're a little kid, you don't have a lot of foundation in making decisions. You're going through this process, learning how to make good decisions and the consequences of your decisions when you're reading these stories, right? So, there was this fear sometimes of, at least like the way I approached it, what if I make the wrong decision, Like I was sort of, the books really drew me in, I was invested in the stories. And, and I think it's a perfect analogy for the life that comes and how to experience it and the real world application of good decisions versus bad ones, right? And or perhaps a better way to put it is good outcomes versus bad outcomes based upon the decisions you've made, right? There's sometimes decisions may not appear to be bad, but outcomes can still be bad, and vice versa, right? So the part that I think that really captivated me reading these books was especially the first few times as you go through all the different scenarios, you didn't know what the outcome of your choice would be, right? And the beautiful lesson in that is you, like as it is in real life, is you don't know the outcomes of your decisions until after you've made them, right? There's you can prepare and you can anticipate and you can consider what may occur, and but you never truly know, right? And that's the adventure of life, right? As I say, choose your own adventure. It doesn't just apply to the book titles, right? So, and I think this is an interesting thing that you really, when you sort of start to understand that it's a skill set or an ability outside of the stories that you're reading, and it's really something that you're learning to master and build upon, right? Is making the decisions, right? Ultimately coming to that epiphany when you're a little kid, like your decisions have consequences. Right, I can remember when I was little, and it's just the funniest thing of like when I look at my younger son now, and he is I was just like him, and he's such a wonderful, curious, vibrant little boy with so much joy in his eyes and just intrigue, right? And he's definitely a little thinker, and I can remember making lots of silly decisions as a kid. Like most people, I probably made far more than my fair share of silly decisions, and even now to this day, probably as well. But I'm getting better at it, right? And I can just recall, like, my mother saying countless times, look before you leap. Think about what you are doing. What is going to happen if you make this decision? Ask yourself, if I do this, what might happen? And like my mother drilled that into me, and I needed it. Believe you me, I needed to hear that because I kept making the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over and over. It took me a long time to really get there, or at least to develop the capability to make better choices in life. So the realization of the decisions I make have consequences, right? And I determine what happens next, and each decision builds upon the one that came before it. So, like a good example in the Choose Your Own Adventure book series, it was such a well crafted way to represent this for children, right? Is if you made a wrong choice or a poor choice or a bad choice in the stories, and the outcome was less than desirable, short of the protagonist dying in the story, you were able to then sometimes backtrack or pick up and end up say on the same path you would have in the story if you'd made a better decision earlier on in the story. So I thought it's a great way to consider. It's not the end of the world if you make a series of bad decisions, because you learn from these experiences. You learn from the choices you make and the outcomes that you go through. When you ultimately, if you make a poor decision, sometimes it can actually serve you better because you've gone through the sort of the pain of the outcome, or the less than desirable result, and the pain makes choices sink in, right? If you go through some hardship and some challenging times, you don't forget it quickly, right? So oftentimes you make a decision that turns out not to be the best, and you can actually learn more from those decisions, right? The outcomes can teach you far more than potentially sometimes making a better choice, and not really understanding the consequences of those choices that you make, right? So the the experience going through this as a child that I had has helped me immensely, right? Going through learning these skills, and one of the biggest lessons or takeaways that I had personally, that I feel cannot be overstated, is you need to make the best decisions you can at the time with the information that you have. Right now, again, like I keep referring to the books because, especially for those of you who are familiar with the books, you'll understand, it'll make sense because you'll probably relate to your own experience in reading the stories. And like, for example, right, the first decision that you come to when you're reading a Choose Your Own Adventure book, right? You've only got a little bit of context, right, to go off what's happened in the story thus far, and you're, as the reader, presented with a decision, right? It might be something as simple as two adventurers come to a fork in the road, and you have to decide: do you take the left path or do you take the right path? Now, at that sort of early stage in the story, there might not be many indicators to tell you one choice is better than the other or worse than the other. It's just you have to make a call, right? And I found an important skill. On a side note to this, the quicker that you can make decisions in life, informed decisions, not foolish decisions. Don't make a decision quickly for the sake of it. But if you can take all the information that you have available to you at the time and make the best possible decision quickly, it will serve you far better than procrastinating or dwelling or over analyzing and to the point where you don't ultimately make a decision and you're left behind. Right? Sometimes quick decisions are good decisions. You move quickly. If it's a mistake, you can learn from it. Bounce back, move fast, keep going. There's value in the momentum of the decisions you make. Right. So you've got to make calls, and it's just like everyday life, right? You can only make decisions based upon the information that you have. No more, no less. You can ponder till the cows come home, right? And weigh up every entire possible outcome that may occur, but ultimately you've got to make a call, right? You have to make a decision, right? So when you're going through the book, and this is something I think that kids are very good at, right? Kids aren't overthinkers. They use a perfect balance of instinct, curiosity, the level of understanding they possess, and a little bit of let's see what happens, right? A nice balance, right? And kids have to approach decision making in that manner, because you imagine if a child, right, went through life and made no mistakes. How underdeveloped would that child be? Right? And this is something that I try to, as a parent myself, protect my children, within reason, right? Like if my boys are doing something foolish and it's dangerous, I'll provide some guidance and try to help them avoid making foolish choices. But I've found in experience with my own kids, right? If they make a bad choice and they suffer the consequences of those choices, the lesson sticks, right? Again, to that point, they go through some pain, it sets it in your mind, and you understand, it's that old adage of you stick your hand on a burning stove, you only do it once, right? You feel it, you understand the pain and the outcome, the consequence of those decisions, right? So, naturally, like when my boys are excited as little kids to jump down a flight of stairs to see if they can do it. I know that they could break their leg doing it, or break their ankle, but if they want to try it, it'll heal. You've got to give them a bit of that leeway to make those decisions, right? So, and as a kid, man, I got hurt a lot of times. even things where I'd get hurt, and I'd want to prove to myself that I could do it, and I would keep doing it and continually get hurt. Until I did it and didn't get hurt, which is perhaps why maybe I was drawn to skateboarding in my teen years. Lots of injuries, but I digress. So ultimately, right, when you're planning to make the best decisions you can with the information that you have, and quickly, right? So the biggest challenge of this, and a huge value takeaway that has served me immensely and will empower you, is when you make your decisions and your choices, just like in the storybook, whatever the outcome is, you keep moving forward, right? And you get to the next piece of the story and you're presented with a new choice, and then you make a better decision moving forward based upon where you're at, what you've experienced, and what you now know. Right now, of course, with the book, as a kid, you could read a bit and go, "Oh, that's not a great outcome," and flip back a few pages. But the sort of takes away from the point of the story, or the dynamic, or the experience of the book, right? So, and life is no different, right? You might not like the outcome of the decision you've made, but you have to own it, right? It's your decision. No one else made it for you. And even in the cases where you think that someone else has made a decision for you, they may have influenced you, but ultimately you made the choice. No one else can decide for you. You still have to take the action, right? Like if someone says to me, let's go base jumping and jump off the top of a building, they might have incredible influence over me to persuade me to do so. But short of them pushing me off the top of the building, I'm still the one who has to make the decision to step out off the ledge, right? With me? So you must take ownership. And this is the thing, as I said earlier, it has served me immensely, because when you take ownership of your decisions, regardless of the outcome, it empowers you to take further action and grow from the experience and be better and more capable because of it. Right now, if you don't own your bad decisions, you've lost all your power, because you're outsourcing decision making or responsibility to other parties, and in doing that, you've just created a massive roadblock and obstacle for yourself, because you've taken away your own power and freedom to make decisions and move accordingly based upon them, right? The last thing you want to do is blame others for your choices, right? This is huge, right? As soon as I took ownership, whether it's good, bad, whatever choice I make, I am responsible for the outcomes and the experiences that I am having in life. And as hard and challenging as that is to sometimes stomach, it gives you far more freedom than you ever dreamt possible. Because once you've taken accountability and ownership of every choice that you make, the direction of your life is entirely back in your hands. Because no matter what happens, you can do something about it. You learn from it, take it in. You get knocked on your backside, pick yourself up, dust off, try again, right? You learn something. You're better for the decision, right? You're better for it. So, ultimately, as the book suggests, like, this is what life is, choose your own adventure. When you start to realize that life is a real world experience of those books, you can have the most incredible life, like these amazing, wonderful stories that just feel full of richness and wonder and experience, and these crazy occurrences. You can have all these things in real life. You can go down any path you choose. The only difference being, with the Choose Your Own Adventure books, there was, between the covers, there was only so many choices and paths to take and outcomes that could occur. Whereas the adventure that we're choosing right now is limitless. Anything you want to do, anything you can dream of, any decision you can make, any direction you want to take, any path you want to travel is yours to travel. Don't be afraid to take those choices and make those decisions. As I said, make the decision with all the information you have at the time. Make the best, most calculated decision you can with what you have. And if it's not a good choice, own it, learn from it, grow, move on, and know how to make a better decision next time. All right. That's all I have for you guys today. I appreciate each and every one of you for being here and sharing some of your day with me. Hopefully, you guys are familiar with these books. And if not, and I know we're like immersed in this digital era right now where, it's all about devices, but if you have kids of your own, or you're just curious and you love to read, look online, dig them up, and go and find these Choose Your Own Adventure books. You won't regret it. They're very, very wonderful, timeless stories that I'm sure even kids that are used to reading on an iPad or a Kindle would still love to read and feel that tactile experience of flicking through different sections of a book. It's a great way for children to learn decision making in a safe environment. All right. Thank you again, guys. My name is Wade Vincent. And before I forget, who could you become? Right? This is your journey. Choose your adventure. Pick your path. Let me know, where are you at in your story. Put it in the comments. Share with me. I wanna build and learn and grow with you guys, and be part of your journey as well. And I want you to be part of mine. So I will talk to you again next Friday, and hopefully you make some good decisions in the meantime. All right, guys.